Hey everyone, welcome back to Seifbuys. I'm Saif, and today I want to compare my two favorite wireless noise cancelling headphones for Apple users. We've got the Apple AirPods Max over here and the Sony WH-1000XM5s. These are goated in my opinion. I've obsessed over which is the best headset. I've watched virtually every wireless noise cancelling headset video out there. I'm primarily an Apple user though, and so this video will be geared towards making decisions for Apple users. If you use iPhone, a MacBook, Apple TV, etc., etc. I'll give you the conclusion up front, not looking to waste your time, but I'll also go in depth on both of these products. I do think this is a bit of a nuanced decision, but I think I can give a conclusion up front that will sway you in the right directions. I'm also interested in your opinion, by the way, if you've already bought either of these and if you agree with what I'm about to say or not. I'm also generally curious about that, your experience with either of these headsets. That's not to say I haven't tried other headsets like the Bose QC45s. I acknowledge other headsets are nice as well, but these two are my favorite, and I'll dive into why that's the case as well deeper in this video. Also, one thing I want you to keep in mind as you watch this video, I'm not an audiophile, I'm not an audio engineer, I'm just a normal person looking for the best wireless noise cancelling headset to focus in, to listen to stuff while I'm walking around, to have nice transparency mode and be able to isolate myself when needed. Yeah, that's it. That's the perspective I'm coming from. Just an average consumer and not some enthusiast audiophile. But conclusion up front, which of these should you decide on? If you mainly listen to music, I would go for the Sony WH-1000XM5s. As well as if you value extremely long battery life and you're not always beside a charger, or you might go, for example, for a day or two without ever encountering a charger. I would trust the Sony WH-1000XM5s to get me through that, but primarily the main reason I would choose them is if I listen to music. Why is that the case? That's because it has an EQ adjuster that's super easy to adjust the EQ. For me, let's be clear, sound quality and people's hearing is pretty subjective. Everybody's hearing is as unique as their fingerprint, or even probably more unique than your fingerprint, based on what I saw online. And it makes sense because your brain is basically interpreting how it perceives different sound waves. So one thing might sound great to me and then not sound so great to you. The fact that they give you that EQ, that broad EQ adjustment capability, which is super easy to do in the Sony WH-1000XM5s, is amazing. And that is not the case here with the AirPods Max. So while raw sound quality, as measured by like audiophiles and specialists out there, might say that the AirPods Max have higher sound quality, I think in terms of enjoyment of your music and excitement when you're listening to music, for me it's just no contest. It's the Sony WH-1000XM5s. However, if I could only buy one of these headsets, based on where I'm currently at in life and my current season, I would say I would go with the AirPods Max, and that is because I don't primarily listen to music currently. I listen to a lot more audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube videos, TV shows, and movies. For those purposes, as well as the Apple ecosystem and a bunch of other reasons I'll dive into, I do prefer the AirPods Max overall. If I could only choose one headset, that is what I'd go for. There's plenty of other reasons as well that we'll dive into, but that is the deciding factor here between these two. Do they both have amazing noise cancelling? Yes. Do they both have transparency mode and a bunch of other features? And does each headphone have even more going for it than what I just mentioned? Yes, and that's what we'll dive into now. But if you appreciate this conclusion up front here, trying to help you decide up front, drop a like on the video, subscribe if you feel like subscribing, and let me know your experience with either of these headsets in the comments below. Let me know which one you ended up going for. I'll put chapter markers below if you want to jump to a specific section, but I'll dive into each aspect of these headsets in the order of importance that I think each feature is. Starting off with our most important feature here is comfort. To me, a headset is no good if it's got all the features in the world, sounds amazing, but I don't feel comfortable wearing it for long periods of time, then it's pretty much lost my vote there. And the good thing I can say here is comfort is not a deciding factor for me between these two. They're both equally as comfortable in different ways. Let's just say that. I'll start off with the Sonys. Sonys are lighter. Noticeably lighter, made of definitely a cheaper feeling material, but also very well built. Sony's been in the headset game for a long time, so these will stand the test of time. They'll last you like years on end. They have plenty of room in there for your ears, but arguably, and in my experience for sure, not as much room in there as the AirPods Max. And they have less clamping force. So if you don't like headphones clamping on your head too tight, you will prefer the Sony WH-1000XM5s over the AirPods Max here. These have a tighter clamping force, but it's still supremely comfortable. I don't want to say that the clamping force is like excessive in comparison to this, it's just ever so slightly tighter. And in fact, If we're talking about clamping force, we have to talk about the overall effect of fatigue on your ears, and I would say my ears get fatigued and heated more quickly in the Sonys, despite the fact that they're lighter and they have a lighter clamping force, at least on my head. One reason I think that's the case is because there's not as much room here for your ears, plus these are some sort of leather material here compared to the perforated material here on the AirPods Max. And another thing I like about this perforated ear cups here, which are definitely wider and will fit larger ears than the Sony WH-1000XM5s, it's also deeper, so your ear won't touch the surface inside as much as it will with this. Granted, you could get third-party, what do you call them, ear cups for Sony's headsets. Like, there's plenty of brands that do that. I would probably go with Wicked Cushions if I was gonna get a custom ear cup. But these ones, there's just something to be said about the stock ear cups here on the AirPods Max, and the fact that they're magnetic like this is really convenient, and I just like it. And I've used this for well over 3 years now. I've been using the AirPods Max, and I can confirm that from a comfort perspective, they are some of the best out there. Plus in the gym, I see people wearing these all the time. So that's a testament really to how well they will stay on your head, even during physical activity. Granted, of course, if you keep taking them to the gym, you'll probably need to replace your ear cups sooner. But anyway, that is comfort. I've worn them both on flights. I would say they're equally as comfortable. I wouldn't decide based on comfort, but yeah, they're both super comfortable. But if I had to give a slight edge, for the reasons I mentioned, I would give it to the AirPods Max. Deeper ear cups, wider ear cups, perforated. I would give the slight win there to the AirPods Max, but again, I wouldn't decide based on how comfortable they are because of how comfortable they both are, basically, if that makes sense. The next feature we're going to walk into is the controls. So the controls are something that you're modifying all the time, and I could be out on a walk, I could be like sitting here. Which one of these is easier to control day in, day out? For me, it's a definite clear win for the AirPods Max. The AirPods Max just has these two buttons here on this one side, which is the right side, right ear cup. And you've got basically control knob here to, you just push it this way or that way, scroll it that way or this way to go volume up or down. And then you can pause the music by tapping it once, or you can skip a track by double tapping or go back by triple tapping. The main thing I use is just increase, decrease the volume. Super seamless, works every time regardless of the weather conditions outside. And that's what's great about tactile controls versus touch controls, which we'll get into with the Sonys in a bit. Another thing here is you've got the noise cancelling button. You just tap it once, you go into noise cancelling. Tap it again, you go into a beautiful transparency mode, which I'll get into in a bit, but bar none, best transparency mode in the game with the AirPods Max. And the fact that they're both on the same ear cup means I can do that transition, that is pause the music and go into transparency mode just with one hand like this. So I can go boom, boom, I'm listening to whoever I need to listen to, I'm talking to whoever I need to talk to, and then boom, boom, I'm back to listening to whatever I need to listen to, and I'm in noise cancelling again. I only need to use one hand, and they're super easy to press, and the headphone isn't at risk of falling off of my ear because I'm pushing down here on the buttons. Now keep that in mind as I go into what that same process feels like on the Sony WH-1000XM5s. So one ear cup, boom, boom, I can go noise cancelling, pause the whatever, go into transparency mode, pause the music or whatever, talk to whoever I need to talk to, boom, boom, and I'm out. I love that, okay? Because I'm not using the voice assistant to trigger everything, and I think most people aren't, so keep that in mind. That's why these are a clear win for me in the controls department. Just seamless, works every time, reliably. Even when I'm carrying stuff, I'm more easily able to change this, and in extremely cold conditions as well. Neither of these have a water resistance rating, I don't think, but I've worn them in light rain and it's fine. Though I wouldn't recommend it. I usually have an umbrella or something on me as well when I wear these in the rain. Or in extreme cold conditions like -10 or whatever. Again, tactile control is pivotal in that regard. Even when you're wearing gloves, these are super easy to do with one hand. The Sony WH-1000XM5s on the other hand, now it's not to say the controls are bad, but it's just in comparison to what I just showed you there on the AirPods Max. In order to, let's say, pause whatever I'm listening to and then go into transparency mode, I would need to double tap here and then click the noise cancelling button here. So I'm using two hands, like boom, boom, and then click that to go into transparency. And then I gotta go boom, boom to play again, and then boom. So I'm using two hands and I gotta do a double tap, so that's 1, 2, 3. Whereas with the Apple AirPods Max, it's like boom, boom. You can pretty much do them simultaneously, like noise cancelling and pause the music at the same time. And then you can just noise cancelling and pause the music and play the music at the same time, or play whatever you're playing. For me, it's usually audiobooks. There you go. Like, that is much easier and more convenient day to day than the Sonys here, where you gotta go boom boom and then this. And maybe you can adjust the controls to make it one tap, but then if you do make it one tap, it's gonna be a lot more prone to accidental pressing because of the touchpad here. So here you can go up and down for the volume, right and left, I believe, to forward and skip tracks, like back or forward. And then, yeah, the double tap is pause. And then the noise canceling button is on the other ear cup down here. And yeah, it's just nowhere near as convenient as it is on the AirPods Max, where the buttons are on the top there and they're really close to each other and they're on the same ear cup. So for those reasons, AirPods Max wins in the controls department, the convenience of the controls, by quite a wide margin, especially considering like this is the number one thing you're doing day in, day out. Like you're gonna be pausing and going into transparency and then playing and going into noise cancellation on off like multiple times a day, tens of times a day probably. And for that reason, I definitely think the AirPods Max are winning in that regard, and Sony should take a note from this and definitely implement it in their next version of the Sony WH-1000XM5s. Let me know if you prefer the controls on the Sony WH-1000XM5s though. I imagine if you're watching this video, you're probably super into tech and you might even have both of these headsets for all I know, or even more than just these two. Now we'll go into the noise cancellation. So if you're buying wireless noise canceling headsets, you want to get in the zone. Like a primary reason why I bought these was I like to lock in. You know, when you want to lock in, you can sort of zone out everything around you. Even if you're just at home, and like literally if I'm just at home, I'll still wear these to lock in. I just like the feeling of when you go into that noise canceling, boom, you feel like you're isolated and focused on the task at hand. And then if you want to use like focus apps like Endel or Brain FM or whatever, you can do that too, and they both sound amazing with those apps. But sticking with noise canceling, both of them on the plane, walking around in the city, I would say they're equivalent in terms of the power of the noise canceling. Obviously, there's probably some nuance there in terms of which one blocks more high-pitched sounds and stuff like that. But for me, day to day, so walking outside, going to the gym, going in a mall or what have you, I would say the noise canceling is on par. However, where they differentiate significantly then is the transparency mode. So transparency is how natural does it sound when I go into transparency mode, where it tries to bring in all the sound from outside, so it feels like you're not wearing the headset. With the AirPods Max, it's definitely leagues ahead of the Sony. It sounds definitely twice or three times as good. It sounds so natural when you go into transparency. I guess it's not 2 or 3 times better, but it definitely sounds way more natural, the transparency mode on the AirPods Max. Like it sounds like you're not wearing anything at all. And I've tried a bunch of headsets, not just these two. Like I've tried the Bose QC45, I've tried the Bose QC75, I've tried some Sennheiser headsets as well. Nobody has nailed down the transparency mode as much as Apple has with the AirPods Max for over-ear headsets. It sounds like you're not wearing anything at all. And despite the fact that Sony has had plenty of years of iterations of these headsets, they still haven't managed to dial down the transparency mode to the same level as AirPods Max. And that's probably because of the chip that they have in here and the processing capability of Apple's chips. H1 chip probably. Don't quote me on that. I'm not technical. Like I don't know if it's an H1 chip in here. I think it is. Whatever. That chip, it makes the transparency mode sound super natural. I don't feel like I have to take these off. Whereas with the Sonys, the sound of whoever's talking to you definitely has some roboticness to it when you're in transparency mode. Like I can definitely hear them clearly enough. I don't need to take it off, but part of me wants to just to hear their normal sound. And that's even when I'm going out for a walk. If I just want to hear the sound of like nature, the birds and stuff, that sounds a lot more natural in the AirPods Max than it does with the Sony WH-1000XM5. So clear win there for the AirPods Max for transparency mode. And by the way, I haven't got into sound quality yet because like I said in the beginning, it's super subjective. So that is why we're going to keep that till the end. You should probably try these out at Best Buy or something if you really want to determine which one's better in sound quality for you. Next, we'll talk about battery life. So the Sony is quoted at 30 hours and it's got a fast charge where 3 minutes will give you 3 hours, which is just like, there's pretty much no risk of you running out of battery with the Sony WH-1000XM5s, considering that 3 minutes gives you 3 hours of playback time. The AirPods Max, on the other hand, is 20 hours. Honestly, I can say I definitely don't get 20 hours out of these. Like, I never have, not even when they were new. For some reason, it just drains battery super fast, and there are forums and stuff which tell you, okay, reset the headset, update to this version, do whatever. I haven't went through all that yet, but let me know in the comments below if you already have the AirPods Max, like how are you dealing with battery life? For me, more often than not, when I pick up the AirPods Max, they're usually drained of battery, whereas that is not the case at all with the Sony WH-1000XM5s. However, regarding battery, while we're on the topic, what I like about the AirPods Max is when I take it off, pretty much my iPhone, specifically on iPhone, it recognizes that you've taken the headset off. And then if I play the audio on my phone, it's automatically going to play it from my phone because it knows I've taken the headset off. Whereas with the Sony, sure, it'll pause the music or whatever, but if I click play again on my phone, it's still connected via Bluetooth, and so it'll play on the headset. It won't play from my phone. So that's a major convenience on iPhone, is I could just take these off. I don't have to put them back in their case or whatever, and automatically it knows that I'm not wearing them anymore, and it'll play the sound from my phone or from my MacBook or what have you. Whereas with the Sonys, if it's connected via Bluetooth, it'll continue playing from whatever it is. And then you have to remember to turn it off here. So a lot of people don't like that this doesn't have an on-off button, the AirPods Max, but I kind of do like it, except for the fact that for some reason, like, the batteries on these drain super fast. So if they could just fix that, I'm sure it's a software thing or whatever, a firmware thing. I don't think it's a hardware defect, but anyway, let me know in the comments. But I do appreciate that the AirPods Max just disconnects and is smart enough to know when I'm not using the headsets anymore. Whereas the Sonys, I need to turn them off using the power button. And then plus, I don't know when it's turned on or off, like, necessarily. I don't think it's clear. You know, I have to look at my phone to know if it's turned on or off. Like, it'll connect there. The flashing means it's connecting, I believe. And then it just goes dark, right? So while it's connected, it just goes dark. Sometimes I look at it, I'm like, I don't know if it's on or off. There is an intermittent blue flash, I think. I don't even know if you like that, but then I gotta hold it. And then it goes like that. And then now I think it's off, right? Yeah. So as just a bit more of a process than literally just taking off your headset and having it just know that it's supposed to be in low power mode, and then it's supposed to go in super low power mode when you put the AirPods Max in its case. Which takes us to the next thing here, which is the cases. A lot of people don't like the AirPods Max case here, where it's just this little pouch, and I didn't think I would. I thought I would be worried about the durability basically of this delicate looking part here, the headband. But I've been using this for well over 3 years, and the headband is pretty much without fault here. And I've taken this on plenty of trips, like plenty of flights, plenty of just chucking it in my bag and taking it out whenever, throwing pens in there too. Obviously you might risk, like, if you throw a pen in there, it gets lodged in there, it could rip this thing. I don't know if anyone's had that experience, but for me so far, thankfully I have separate compartments for my pens and stuff. I haven't had that issue, plus keys or whatever. I don't know if they might mess with this in your bag. But overall, yeah, I've been using these for years, haven't been paying much mind to taking care of them. I just chuck them around, and they've held up beautifully. Granted, of course, like I said, for some reason the battery life is super low. I don't know if that's a hardware defect or whatever, but it was like that closer to the beginning of when I bought it as well. It's not like it developed over time, that issue. But yeah, this is the AirPods Max case. Magnetic little flap here. You just put it in, it goes into a super low power mode. Pretty cool. But it's nothing compared to the Sony's case over here, where you literally plop that in there. It's got a magnetic pouch here for your cables. For example, with the AirPods Max, I almost always forget, like, I need to keep it in my bag, the cable for connecting this to the in-flight entertainment system, the lightning to whatever audio jack connector. That's not always on me, right, with the AirPods Max. Whereas here, because the case includes this little pouch for your cables, you've got your audio connector there, and you've got whatever, a USB-C to USB-A for... I don't know who uses USB-A. Like, I still don't understand why their USB-A is still a thing. But anyway, it's super nice. Plus it covers the whole product there, right? So I can zip this up and I can rest assured that anything bad is gonna happen to my headset here. Whereas with this, it's a little bit more questionable, but again, in real life experience, nothing's happened. Knock on wood, right? And in terms of space, they take up about the same space in your bag. As you can see there, the Sony isn't taking up much more space to give you significantly more protection. What else am I gonna say? Yeah, the Sony is made of this interesting material here. You might like it. I kind of like the feel. Plus it's got this thing here, you could attach it to a lanyard or whatever, or just hang it on your desk or whatever. On my desk, I've got a bunch of headphone hangers, and yeah, it's nice to just be able to hang it like that. Yeah, can't fault this. I've seen some people say whatever, the zipper isn't that good. It's super high quality zipper. Like, I haven't had any issue. Opens every time seamlessly. Sony WH-1000XM5s. I think, yeah, this wins in the storage department for sure, the Sonys. And then if we want to talk about build quality, like I think most people will agree this one feels better built, but it is heavier for sure. Also, I haven't noticed any scratches on the space. Initially, I was using some silicone pad here on the ear cups, and then I was just like, whatever, I don't need that. And I really haven't had an issue. I've been using it for well over 2 years without the silicone cover thing, and not a single scratch on here, so no need for that. Also, while we're talking about the cases, let me talk about the cables. So yes, there is a new version of the AirPods Max and it comes with USB-C. And the new feature they just released on that USB-C version of the AirPods Max is you can get lossless audio. So you can connect it to your MacBook and edit your videos or do whatever you're doing with lossless audio. So it'll USB-C from the AirPods Max over to the computer will give you lossless audio. So that's a big thing. Plus they created a USB-C to airline adapter, so the auxiliary airline adapter. So you get both of that with the AirPods Max. You don't get it in the box. I think you have to buy them separately, but you have those available to you on the USB-C version of the AirPods Max, aka the newer version. I don't think they sell this old Lightning version anymore. And now we will get into the last thing here, which is sound quality. Again, I'll say it once more, sound quality is pretty subjective. Your hearing is as unique as your fingerprint, if not more unique. Yeah, but sound quality for me, music, I just choose the bright EQ on the Sony WH-1000XM5s, makes everything from rock to rap to just soulful music sound amazing to me. It makes me want to listen to music, whereas I don't get that feeling with the AirPods Max's sound. And I've tried playing with there is a way to adjust the EQ, it's just not very intuitive. Like you have to go into accessibility settings and like do a bunch of weird stuff. But even then, it doesn't give you anywhere near as easy or as broad of adjustability over the EQ, the AirPods Max. So if you're listening to music, I would definitely say Sony WH-1000XM5s. But whereas when you're watching movies and stuff, if you have a Sony Bravia TV, sure, the Sony is nicely integrated with your Sony Bravia TV, and I do have a Bravia A95L here, so it is pretty nice. And I did stop using my Apple TV on my main TV for reasons I won't get into, but I've made videos on why I did that. But the AirPods Max, when you hook this up with your Apple TV 4K, not only is it seamless, it just pops up on the screen and you can easily just carry the audio over from the TV over to your headset, but it sounds amazing. Especially for Apple TV shows, the spatial audio or whatever they're doing with the AirPods Max makes me feel like I'm in the movie. It rivals my $3,000 Sonos full surround sound system, right? And that's really saying something. So especially on a plane. Finally, let's dive into the app experience. Obviously, the Sony WH-1000XM5s has an app. Let me take it out here. The Sony WH-1000XM5s has an app, and the app is pretty straightforward, easy to use. Could be better laid out or designed better, but honestly it serves its function very well. Allows you to adjust the EQ to your delight, has amazing presets. I prefer the bright EQ. The AirPods Max has great integration with your iPhone. You can easily adjust the settings from the control center. Granted, you can't adjust the EQ, so it's sort of limited there. But on the note of the app experience, let's dive into basically the ecosystem experience. So if you're an Apple user like me, primarily an Apple user, I'm not married to the Apple ecosystem. Actually, I kind of am, never mind. I've tried the whole Google Pixel ecosystem and it just hasn't caught up to where Apple's at. So yeah, Google still needs to put in some work. So yeah, the ecosystem, I'm able to seamlessly switch. If you have an iPad, you have an iPhone, you have a MacBook, you have Apple TV 4K, it's a no-brainer. It's much easier and more seamless to connect the AirPods Max to all those devices through your Apple ID than it is to pair and unpair up to 2 devices simultaneously on the Sony WH-1000XM5s. But when it comes to 2 devices, if all you're using is your iPhone and your MacBook, like I imagine most users are, it is pretty much on par, as seamless in terms of switching between using your iPhone, listening to something on your iPhone, then going to your MacBook and taking a Zoom call, and then going back to your iPhone. They basically start and stop seamlessly on switching between those 2 devices. The AirPods Max over the years, obviously I've owned it for a very long time. Sometimes it doesn't connect every time. Like I have issues, I'll put it on expecting to take a call and then it like takes a while to register with the iPhone. So I really hope the next version of this AirPods Max, they improve the chip connectivity and the failure rate of connecting to my iPhone. But more often than not, it works. So I'm not really too bothered, but the Sony, again, for 2 devices is great. And the app also allows you to switch, so you can pick your 2 primary devices and then switch it out as needed, so you don't have to keep reconnecting it to whichever 2 devices you want it to alternate between. So that's pretty cool. and mindful. And also, if you find yourself alternating, I know this is a super niche set of users between Android and iPhone. Obviously, something like the Sonys will be better suited. Actually not. You know, even if I was primarily on Android, I think I would still rock the AirPods Max just because of the seamlessness of the controls, the nice transparency mode, and the comfort and everything I just mentioned. One more thing, let's go into the aesthetics. I think a lot of people are gonna prefer the flat design of the AirPods Max. Like, I don't like having bulgy alien, you know, earmuff looking things coming out, which most headsets have, right? Like the Sonys over here. But this one's super sleek. You see people wearing it in the gym, and I personally prefer the look of this. Let me know in the comments which you prefer aesthetically, design-wise. Again, it's a pretty clear win for the AirPods Max for me. Sonys, you put them on, and yeah, that's what the Sonys look like. They don't look bad, but it's just when compared to the sleekness and thin profile of these, especially considering that these give you more room for your ears and breathability, I just prefer the AirPods Max aesthetically. Again, let me know in the description which you prefer. Also, let's touch on lossless audio and all that. So the AirPods Max have spatial audio, and in terms of listening to music in either of these, regardless of codecs and all of that, which I don't even, like, I could go in depth on that and research all that, but personally as a buyer, I don't care about that. Like, I care about the music listening experience, depending on which headset I'm listening to. Music, like I said, sounds better on the Sony WH-1000XM5s because I can adjust the EQ to my liking. On the AirPods Max, it's not that music sounds bad, it sounds pretty good. It's just you're not able to get that exact sound profile that you like as easily, or even at all. I don't even know if it's possible, period, to get the exact EQ you want on the AirPods Max. But for movie listening and stuff like that, and audiobooks and all that, I still, for some reason, prefer the AirPods Max, if not by a large margin, but ever so slightly. And then definitely when I'm watching Apple TV shows, like I said, definitely AirPods Max, just the level of immersion that's unmatched. And even for Netflix and stuff, actually, I just really like watching stuff on the Apple TV 4K through the AirPods Max. Let me just say that. More so than I like listening to anything streamed off of my Sony Bravia TV on the Sony WH-1000XM5s. So I hope that drives the message home in a sort of easy subjective way. And then let's touch on the last thing here, price. Obviously the Sony WH-1000XM5s is considerably cheaper, but again, for something you're gonna be wearing day in, day out, I don't think, at least for me, like the difference between $300 and $500 or $530 isn't really playing as much when I'm talking about something I'm going to be wearing multiple times a day, every day for like several years, right? I don't know if that's just a me thing, but if I was going to spend on something, a wireless noise canceling headset would be at the top most of my priorities as someone who like does a lot of work on his MacBook and likes to get in the zone and watches a lot of YouTube and listens to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts. I don't know if that's just me though. Let me know in the description below if price is a big factor for you in deciding between these two. The AirPods Max is definitely egregious, but the ease of use, the ecosystem benefits, and the high quality of everything really with regards to the AirPods Max really sets it apart. They just need to fix their battery life situation ASAP, as well as offer us some EQ control. I can't imagine how good the AirPods Max would be if they offered the same ease of EQ adjustments as the Sony WH-1000XM5s. Also, for what it's worth, guys, I have played with both of these while gaming. I would say they're both equivalent. While gaming, you can use a Bluetooth transmitter. I'll link to my best PS5 headset video as well in the description if you want to watch that. You can use these while gaming to a limited extent. You can't use the mics and stuff like that with relative ease or with accuracy or clarity, but you can use these while gaming. They're decent enough. You don't need to buy a pair of dedicated gaming headsets if you don't game that much. You could just pop these in with a Bluetooth transmitter and you're good. You get the benefit of much higher quality noise canceling as well than any gaming headset out there by quite a mile. Definitely get a lot of use out of these. That's why I don't think price should really be a factor when you're looking at these. Obviously, if you go beyond like $1,000 or whatever, like that's quite egregious. One more thing, I always forget to mention this part because genuinely it matters so little to me. We're talking about the mic quality. I never get to experience the mic quality firsthand when I buy a headset. They're all expensive headsets. They've been in the game long enough. None of them have atrocious mic quality. Like, I don't think if you take a Zoom call or you take a phone call with anybody using either of these headsets, I don't think you're gonna get any complaints. They are top of the line, high-tech, wireless noise canceling headsets, flagship level even. And yeah, I'm not gonna do mic quality tests and stuff like that. Honestly, when I was deciding which one to buy, that was literally the lowest thing on my list. From what I hear, the AirPods Max is unrivaled in terms of its mic quality, especially on Apple devices. Take that for what it is. I wouldn't decide on either of these based on mic quality alone. Let me know if you differ in that in the comments below. Let me know if like a headset is perfect, but then the mic quality is kind of mid. You would literally not get that headset just for that reason. Though I feel like when you are paying this much, headsets have been around for a long enough time that I don't think it's excusable for any brand to have poor mic quality this day and age. I just don't think differences in how high quality a mic is gonna sway me one way or the other. They're all good enough at this price range at least.